morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Just dandy.
All right, thank you. I needed one. Just needed one. It's a little bit of my own personal validation. So here's what we wanted. Happy June, by the way. Here's what we want to do today. We'd like to talk a little bit about, was it last week you guys had Ruben from KW Research?
Yes.
Went through some of the Charlotte market slides. I want to do a little bit deeper dive into some of those because there's some really interesting information that I think is important that we take away from that. And then we're going to be talking about a survey that was done recently by Realtor.com, and there were some really great insights. And this was a seller survey. And if we start kind of aligning the information that we get from Ruben about the Charlotte market, along with the expectations we're getting from what the survey said with sellers, we'll start to see some opportunities for us of how we can educate people and give ourselves some more at-bats, some more conversations. So let's just kind of dive in. Robin's looking for a couple of the things that we'd like to share screen with. While we're doing that, I'm just going to talk about some numbers. So one of the things he shared in his slides is that the median sold price year to date in the Charlotte market was up 2% versus the same period of time for 2024. I think on that one it did go through May, or maybe it was April and May to a certain point. So for the same period versus 2024, our median sold price is up 2%. Right off the bat, any ahas with anybody in that one? Up 2%.
So my aha for that one, Chip, when we were talking about earlier this morning, was over the past 5 years, that's significantly lower than it has been over the last 5 years, that 2%.
Yeah.
So I mean, historically, we see a 4%. So we're seeing that trending down, more leveling out.
We're starting to level up. Yeah, we're not seeing the huge gains in appreciation in the market, yet we're also not a declining market.
Right, exactly.
Right? We're not slipping backwards. We're a lot more rational right now in terms of like at least the Charlotte market. But keep that 2% in mind, and you'll see why it's important. Keep all of these in mind. If you're taking notes, if you're driving, please don't take notes. If you're not driving, take notes, because there's some important stuff in here. All right, let's talk about units closed. Okay, again, we're going to look at year to date this year versus the same period of time last year. We're actually up 5.7% units closed. Any ahas in that one? All right, we'll keep going. Let's talk about months of supply. What we've seen this year so far is our months of supply in the Charlotte market. We're starting in January. January, we were at 2.3%. February, 2.4%. March, months. 2.3 months, 2.4 months. March, 2.6 months, and April, 2.8 months. So we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick, a creep upwards, if you will, in the amount of what they call supply, months of supply of inventory, which represents basically, if nothing else at that moment in time came on the market, and the current rate we're selling homes, that's how long it would take to sell our inventory in the Charlotte market. So keep that one in mind, keep all those stats in mind. It's not percent or months, and that was my fault. Now let's talk about active listings. Active listings, April of this year, was up 42% compared to active listings April of last year. And then finally, the last category is we want to look at days on market. And days on market simply represents the amount of time it takes for a property when it hits the market to get a contract. Okay. So we look at this one, we're up 29% April of this year. It's 54 days compared to April of last year. So I wanted to share it again, you know, it's stats, it's numbers, it's Monday morning, and I understand it. Yet, here's why it's important. Do we have the other one yet? JPEG?
We,
Still working
the
on
one from,
the Realtor.com stuff?
I'll pull it up in just a second.
Okay, we're still working out that part. I want to go into this. So here's what Realtor.com did recently. They did a survey. It was 801 sellers. And there was a lot of great information in it. Robin's getting ready to hit share right now on the screen.
Keep talking.
Okay, so here's what this does. I really like this one because this one particular slide that they had was about seller expectations. So they looked at 3 different categories.
Can y'all see this?
Okay, they had 3 different categories in seller expectations: price, time on market, and negotiation expectations. So let's look at the price one first. 35%. Remember, this is 801. I don't know why 801. I didn't go into the rationale of the sampling size, but 35%, or 1 out of 3 people, expected or are expecting to get more than their asking price. And then 46%, or almost 1 out of 2, are expecting to get their asking price. All right, so there's a survey of potential sellers. Let's go back to information. How can we use what we learned about price expectations of the sellers, connect the dots to what the market's telling us about price? Will sellers get more than ask? Or will they get their asking price?
It depends.
It depends. What's the Charlotte data telling us about sold price?
This
About
is
95 or 96% of asking.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing we could look at. Let's go back to one of the things we already talked about. If we just simply sat down with a seller and said, you know, here's what we're seeing in the market currently, year to date. We're ahead about 2% of where we were last year at this time in terms of price, sold price. Now, if you made that statement with a seller or potential seller compared to what their price expectations are, right off, here's what we got to do, guys. Here's the bottom line. We have to align a couple of things. We have to educate ourselves about what's really happening in the market. That's the purpose of what we're doing now. But then ultimately, we want you to take this information and go out and educate the people you're having conversations with about what's really happening in the market, reality of the market, not what Uncle Joe says or anybody else, right? So we want to make sure we have the real information that we're getting out there, because I want to align my conversation with the expectations of what the sellers are thinking. Or at least get their expectations aligned with the reality of the market. Does that make sense? If you want to win at the table and win the listing appointment, this is one of the easiest ways to start figuring some things out. We can't afford to be order takers anymore and just go in and list the property because the seller, you know, they want 800 in their $600,000 neighborhood. We're not meeting their expectations on price. We're allowing their expectations to drive the process, and their expectations are out of alignment with how the market's really performing.
Well, then right from the beginning, Chip, I feel like you lose trust with that person
Sure.
from the beginning.
Absolutely. Because now it's your fault, by the way.
Absolutely.
100% it's your fault. Who are they going to blame? And this isn't about making this a non-blame game or deferring blame or anything else, but it is our opportunity to actually go in and bring credibility, build trust, be that agent of value, because you're understanding how the market is working. And you're willing to not just simply tell them, but bring information that helps them see it.
But not only our opportunity, but our obligation.
Oh,
I feel.
100%.
Yeah, separating us from every other real estate agent out there.
100%. Now, here's the other thing I would do with this. They talk about their asking prices. If we keep going, I'll get less than my asking price. And then, of course, 5% of the people, 1 out of 20 go, I have no idea.
Well, I think this is increasing too. Yeah, I have no idea,
I-
I'm clueless. I'll get less than my asking price. 2 years ago, you would have never seen 13%
Right.
there. So I think sellers are starting to be more educated and they're paying more attention to what's happening in the market. And we'll go through some of those some of the sellers that have been sitting on their property for a couple years thinking about selling. So I think that is increasing, and I think we'll start to see a decline in the upper numbers as we move forward throughout the year.
So here's the thing, I think it really goes down to that two words up there, asking price.
Mhm.
So they can ask all day. Are they listing it though at a price that is in alignment with the market and the market conditions? That even for maybe their neighborhood, maybe it's. We're talking about Charlotte metro area information here, but there could be pockets within Charlotte that are performing better or worse than even the Charlotte information. Just like Charlotte is performing better than some other areas of the country.
For sure. So let's talk about time on market expectations.
Yeah, all right, so let's talk about that. Here again, you got 18% think it will take shorter than usual, 57% think it will take the average time. Okay, right off the bat, what's your aha on that one?
What is their perception of average time?
Thank you. What is average time or what is usual, right? Again, it's our opportunity to educate. Let's go back to the data. Days on market, 54. That's our average time right now.
Yeah, like you and I were talking about these slides earlier, and we both said that if my expectation of average, because of what I read on the internet or what I'm seeing on TikTok or Instagram, sold in 12 hours with multiple offers, my average time might be 3 or 4 days. So setting up that expectation in that meeting from the get-go is going to be critical in having these conversations.
So it takes me back to, and like, I see Forrest Dave De Silva, I see Dale up here. I know there's others that have been around for a long time in this industry. Remember the old NAR stat, first 30 days matters? And then, if you start thinking about it, it goes, what does that really mean? It means that regardless of the market, when you get your price right, most homes sell, or at least go under contract, we'll call it that, within what? Within 30 days. Regardless of the market, when the price is correct for the market conditions and buyers agree with the seller and are willing to pay it, almost 90-some% of the time, it's within 30 days.
But hey,
So-
Chip, that's actually since COVID probably dropped down to 14 days.
Yeah, it could. And
Done
I'm
and done right,
Oh.
yeah.
I still want to stick with kind of more of a national number on that,
Right.
Historical number of 30 days. Because if the market here is saying 54, and I go with that stat of 30 days, and then I have the conversation about pricing, and then if I have the conversation about everything else I have to do at the listing appointment, now what kind of an expectation am I setting? No, it's not gonna take you 54 days, because that's for everybody that also had to do price reductions along the way. And when they got their price correct, then the buyers agreed and came in and wrote the offer, right?
But what
It's-
I'm seeing too, though, in the first two section, the price expectation and time on market, we're still seeing a very optimistic seller.
Oh, thank you, yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's not like, oh my God, I hope
It's not doom and gloom.
right. But it is the opportunity to,
Have higher level conversations.
because I have much higher level conversation, absolutely.
So let's jump over to negotiations.
All right, negotiations, let's look at that one. So 1 out of 4 thinks that the buyer will have to make more concessions. That's interesting, 1 out of 4. 1 out of 3 think neither themselves nor the buyer will have to make significant or unexpected concessions. And then almost 1 out of 3 think I'll have to make more concessions as a seller. And then there's our I don't know group growing to 7%.
Yeah. So I think this one's really interesting because as much as the seller feels like they're gonna get their asking price, it'll sell an average amount of time, so it's not gonna sit there a long time. They do feel they're gonna have to give more concessions than ever before. So I thought that was interesting. Anyone else have an aha with that?
I still like the first one and that one out of 4, I think the buyer will have to make more concessions.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me.
Well, those are the clueless ones still sitting up
They
there
should
not
be in
paying
the,
attention.
they should be in the, I don't know.
They should be in the, I don't know.
Cause they really don't, yeah. Yeah. So guys, this is how I like to do things. I like to look at information that's real. Then I wanna go into how people are thinking. And to me, this is where now I get to bring in what I know, my skill, my presentation, and present things in a way using graphics that help show people how things are really going on. And then, of course, when we can do that and we start meeting their expectations, here's the beauty of it, guys. This goes beyond just simply meeting. This could actually move you into a position where you're exceeding expectations. This is where you start creating the client experience.
Well, yeah, because your seller falls into one of these 4 categories. Which category do they fall into? And then you have the conversation around the facts,
All right.
right?
Well, if you can go back to price, more than my ask price. Okay, so how are you determining your asking price?
Mhm.
Well, Zillow said, which is, gonna be a common one, right? Or where did you hear that, we're still selling homes in 4 days? Well, my neighbor down the street sold in 4 days. Well, let's take a look at that. What caused your neighbor to sell in 4 days?
Yeah,
This is just the opportunity. This is where when a market shifts. This is where we get to do this. This is what Gary Keller says for years. When the markets shift, it becomes a skill market, right? This is our opportunity to shift our skill.
Mhm.
This is our opportunity to shift our own thinking first, then shift our skill around understanding this stuff, and then being able to present it in a way that gets others to see the reality of what's happening in the market.
Is that slide shareable?
This one you
Yes,
see up here
yeah,
now.
we'll share it. We'll share it out with Market Center Dale. Thanks for asking that question.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so what else you guys seeing right now? Or what are you thinking out of what we shared in 15, 16 minutes? What else would you want to learn about questions around how to use this? Questions about the market data itself. By the way, this is Realtor.com that did one survey of 800 potential sellers.
Mhm.
I will say this, I know I asked the question, but I'm gonna make some more statements first, sorry. Some other things that came out of this, that was an important slide. But here were some other things, and for some other coaching groups I worked with, we talked about this last week. It was ironic, I felt that there were so many sellers that were surveyed that had been waiting to put their house on the market, some of them for more than 3 years. Most of them were about 1 year to 2 years, but there were people in that sampling that were have been waiting 3 years, and I'm like, what are they waiting for? What do you think they're waiting for? And do you have sellers like that in your pipeline now? They're waiting.
This is interactive, y'all.
Seems like they're waiting for the market to bounce back or they're gonna get a better deal overall for the long term.
Yeah, I would go
Or
back and look at the
pay what
expectation.
they got when back in COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so Nathan, how would you have that conversation with the seller that says, I'm waiting for a better market, a better seller's market right now? How would you have that conversation? What would you say to them?
So, obviously it's contextually dependent upon where they're living, when they bought it, that kind of stuff. But usually it starts with a CMA and just kind of giving them a ground base for what they're looking at now based on what they did before is not going to be looking the same. And just kind of giving this information, this data that shows the trends over time. And that, obviously real estate's always going to appreciate, maybe not at the same levels, but it's
Yeah, exactly.
well, so if somebody was expecting, the reason they're waiting is maybe they want to get a better price next year than this year. We're not declining in value, but we're slowing.
Oh,
in
we're
our
slowing
appreciation.
significantly.
What if they didn't get What if it went to 0 next year? There wasn't any appreciation in the market,
Right.
or maybe it stayed at 2%. Was that enough to make it worthwhile to wait? Maybe not. But that's gonna come back to their personal reason of why they're thinking about selling anyways.
Sharon, do you have something?
I think you have to tap into the equity that they currently have and realize that's the sweet spot. You moving forward from that and get them thinking positively and obviously educate them on the numbers. But I think you have to tap into their equity to get them flowing.
I love that. So here's a great way to look at it. If you're talking with somebody and they've got 300 grand in equity in their house currently, and if, let's assume 2% stayed in the market in terms of appreciation over the next 12 months, and they wanted to wait a year, that means they're gonna get 306,000 in equity. Okay, so let me ask you a question, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Is it worth waiting to get that extra $6,000?
Yeah, and even going to the other side of that, I don't have a crystal ball, however, what if
What
the
if?
market did decline and you lost 4% or you lost 2%?
What if instead of 300, it became 294?
Cause right now I know I can get you the very best price.
Today, you're looking
Today.
at 300,000 in equity.
Exactly.
I can't, we can anticipate with, as best we can with information, but that's not a guarantee.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure some of you on this call lost some major equity back in 2008, 2009 on some properties. So is it possible that that could happen? And I think just having that conversation, are you willing to take the risk? Because I know what today will bring. I don't know what 12 months from now will bring.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. Love the.
Thank you,
equities.
Sharon. Oh my gosh, PJ, where are you? That's scary.
Holy PJ.
It's Virgin Islands.
Nice.
So much I wanna say, PJ, but this is a group call, so I'll be good.
So what other ahas do you have?
Here's the beauty of this, guys. Let's simplify this a little bit. We talked about 5 different pieces of data. We looked at one graphic and look at how many dots we connected and how much we could actually take away to educate the people we're trying to help. This doesn't have to become like overly complicated. It's not like you're out there trying to memorize a massive amount of numbers. All we did is we looked at 5 slides from what Ruben shared. And I just did the math on it to put the percentage increases. That's all I did. It was that simple.
Well, that's what we wanna do for you all, is make it as simple as possible.
So imagine taking the graphic that we did share. I think that's a JPEG file now, but getting it set up in a way that you can put that on social media.
How are you guys feeling? Anybody awake?
Are we still there?
Are we still there?
I feel good. I think this is good information to share with our clients. I have a client right now that's like, let's list at this because I know I'm gonna get less. It's like, no, you're not gonna get anything. So showing them some of these numbers will help.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
I think Ruben hit the nail on the head when he said, we're still Charlotte Metro in a seller's market, but it feels like a buyer's market.
It just feels different, doesn't it? Yeah. But the months of supply of inventory at 2.8 months in April still very clearly says we're in a seller's market. It's just a different version of a seller's market.
Yeah, for sure. And I absolutely love this graphic. If you're not using this in your presentations, I think you should, because I think all this comes back down to trust. And they need to trust that you're the professional and you know what you're talking about. And, it starts with empathy at the very top, that you're gonna be understanding, caring, authentic. Your authentic self is going to come through with just giving them this information.
Yeah.
And showing that you know what you're talking about. Competency falls right
Competency.
into that. Yeah, your knowledge, your skill, your experience, because they have a certain way they're thinking before you ever walk in that door.
Yep.
And then transparency, you know, honesty, clarity, openness, communication. You're gonna be clear on how you feel the market based on everything that you have, all of your graphics, everything, your knowledge. And then dependability, you're going to keep promises, so you're gonna set the expectations and you're gonna meet those expectations. I
Yeah.
met, I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, you go into and you just take a listing because
I need to get one.
you need to get one. Versus setting the expectation based on what you know.
Going back to competency and transparency and having the real conversation with real information. Now you're aligning the expectations so that they can, again, not just simply be met, but exceeded.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now it brings you right back to, are you showing how authentic you are? And you wanna understand what their needs are, but you wanna care enough about their needs to help them understand how the market's performing, so they can ultimately go get what they wanna get.
Absolutely. And any relationship, business relationship, personal relationship starts with trust. So if you have that trust of that client from day one, within the first 5 minutes. You'll have not only them, but you'll have their family members, their coworkers, everyone that they run into, they will be referring you to everyone.
Love it. All right, final thoughts, questions on us?
I love what Zach just said about the client saying that they wanted to list at a certain price because they know they're going to sell for less. And he just educated them and said, no, you could not sell at all, because that hasn't been our conversation. It's kind of been any listing priced any way will sell eventually. And that's just not the case anymore. So I think that
Right.
empowers us, right? It empowers us because, you know, sometimes if that conversation isn't going the way that it needs to go, and you're not willing to be, sorry, I'm out here trying to exercise. Anyway, if you're not willing to, you know, price it to sell, then thank you next. And we can feel confident in that because we know that this could just be a loss for us. And we're not
Well-
out here to put out signs, we're here to pick them up.
Yeah, Miranda, you used the word empowered.
Mhm.
I love that. It does empower you. You go in there a very different agent, knowing the information that you know. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, love that. Love it. Thank you for sharing that, Miranda.
Who else?
All right, gang. We appreciate everybody being here today. We'll share what we do have and get it out to
Yes,
everybody.
we'll get it out. We'll send it
And,
through the office.
Look for this. So as you probably have read, I'm gonna start doing some more things in the market center, and I'm doing a class. I think it's actually this Thursday is the first one. We can do a deeper dive into this topic exactly, like how can we utilize some of these tools and reports in a way that helps people understand things differently and sort of shifts their perspective.
When I think some role play would be really good
We can
too.
do that.
Mhm.
Yep, absolutely.
Would be helpful. Anyone else?
Are these charts able to go into command by any chance?
That's a really great question, Fatima.
We're not the ones to
I
ask.
will find out for you.
Thank you. That would be
You're
great. so
welcome.
It's accessible to everybody.
Yeah,
we
great idea.
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody being on today. Good seeing y'all.
Have a fabulous week, guys. Go get those listings.
BJ,
Good
enjoy
job.
it, man.